Wrestling is a dangerous game, and we've seen our fair share of performers go down with injury due to mishaps in the ring. However, just because a wrestler steps outside of the squared circle, that doesn't mean they're safe. These 10 grapplers all managed to hurt themselves away from the world of steel chairs and flaming tables. Some of these accidents were actually quite serious, and we will treat them appropriately. Others, well, they're really funny. Good thing I don't believe in karma. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 wrestlers who injured themselves outside the ring. Join us. Number 10, Cody Rhodes, lifting weights. At Hell in a Cell 2022, Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins had the first Dave Meltzer-rated 5-star match on WWE's main roster for 11 years. This monster rating was partially due to the excellent in-ring chemistry of the pair, but it was mainly down to Cody wrestling the match with a bruise on his chest the size of bloody Texas. Rhodes had torn his pectoral muscle completely off the bone in the build-up to the show. The fact that it was a complete tear actually turned out to be the best thing for him, as the injury physically couldn't have been any worse by wrestling a full-length match. Such a gnarly injury was the result of something every wrestler does just about every day: weight training. The American Nightmare was in the gym ahead of his match with Rollins when he first hurt his muscle. He made things worse by trying to work through the pain, which is what led to his arm looking like an apple that somebody had just dropped down some stairs. This injury goes to show just how intense the training regime for a professional wrestler can be. It also shows that Cody Rhodes is a complete and utter lunatic. Number 9, Ember Moon chasing the 24/7 title. The 24/7 championship wasn't worth bending down to pick up off the floor, let alone getting injured over. Sadly, this is exactly what happened to current Ring of Honor star Athena, known in WWE as Ember Moon. Moon had a pretty decent run in WWE, picking up the NXT Women's and Women's Tag Team Championships in her time with the Black and Gold. However, a career low point had to be when she hurt her ankle whilst running around after this olive green monstrosity. Whilst participating in a 24/7 segment on the September 24th, 2019 edition of SmackDown, Moon says she felt a pop in her ankle as she was running after R-Truth and Carmella backstage. And that's got to be about the only pop the 24/7 title ever got, eh? Thank you. I'm here all week. Moon initially brushed it off, but then later discovered that she had torn her Achilles tendon. This injury kept her off TV for quite some time. In fact, she wouldn't return to the ring for over a year. Rot in hell, 24/7 title. Number 8, Goldberg working on a farm. We could have put Big Bill Berg on this list for several different reasons. There was that time in WCW that he punched through the window of a limousine, slicing an artery in his arm and causing massive amounts of blood loss. He knocked himself silly on an episode of Raw by headbutting a door prior to an in-ring promo segment, a tradition that he has since retired. However, we thought we would go with this recent incident in which Goldberg took on his fiercest rival to date, a tractor. Whilst working on his Texas farm, the former world champion managed to bash his head against the vehicle he was driving and cut himself open hard way. There's no need to blade when you're fighting agricultural machinery. Goldberg, who was 56 years old at the time, posted pictures to social media of the massive gash that he had received as a result of his fight with the digger. The cut appeared to be on the top of his head, which just makes me think he tried to spear the tractor before getting out for the jackhammer. Number 7, Samoa Joe filming a commercial. Despite looking like he could be shot with a cannon and walk it off, Samoa Joe's main roster WWE was blighted by persistent injuries. He suffered 2 in quick succession in 2017 and 2018, which kept him off TV for a combined total of 6 months. He also spent time on the commentary desk while recovering from the ouchies, which led to that all-time great image of him in a poncho at WrestleMania 37. That injury was caused by a strange set of circumstances, which took place whilst Joe was filming an advert for WWE. Joe took a table bump as part of the commercial and ended up bashing his head in the process. This came just 2 months out from WrestleMania 36, meaning that Joe would have to miss the show. Although if you're gonna miss a WrestleMania, that was definitely the right one. Considering how many violent scenarios the Samoan submission machine has been in during his lengthy in-ring career, it's strange to think that he could do so much damage to himself in a controlled studio environment. I mean, this is the guy who did a dropkick down some concrete stairs, for crying out loud. Number 6. Lita filming a TV show. Sometimes stunts on films and TV shows go wrong and people get hurt. Wrestlers are of course no exception to this. Just ask Kevin Nash about the time he got legit stabbed whilst filming The Punisher. Perhaps the most severe injury a grappler has ever sustained on set was when Hall of Famer Lita was working on sci-fi action show Dark Angel in 2002. The Team Extreme member had landed herself a guest role on the Season 2 episode Freak Show. In a freak accident, no pun intended, she ended up breaking her neck. Whilst rehearsing a scene where she would hit someone with a Hurricane Rana, the stunt double Lita was working with dropped the superstar right on her head, which caused her to crack 3 vertebrae. The stunt woman had assured the flame-haired daredevil that she could control her weight, but that turned out to not be the case. The injury led to an 18-month hiatus from wrestling, although she would still appear on TV as a commentator for Heat during this time. Number 5. Shawn Michaels attacked by Marines. We should warn you now that this is a story about Shawn Michaels from the mid-1990s, so some of the details might be as exaggerated as Shawn's selling. As far as most people are aware, what happened was that HBK took a trip out to a bar one night in Syracuse, New York. Whilst he was enjoying himself, presumably playing pool and sharing a pork scratching or two with the locals, he ended up antagonizing a soldier. After supposedly hitting on the serviceman's girlfriend one too many times, he and Michaels got into a fist fight. According to some sources, the soldier and perhaps 5 or 50 of his Marine mates slammed a car door into Shawn's head. That said, the other witnesses were an intoxicated British bulldog and X-Pac, so take that with a kilo of salt. The injury kept Michaels off the upcoming In Your House show and forced him to relinquish the Intercontinental title. The great irony of this is that the attack led to increased sympathy from the fans, which facilitated a Michaels face turn when he came back. Only the showstopper could try it on with another man's girlfriend and end up coming out the other side as a good guy. Number 4. Justin Gabriel base jumping. When he was in WWE as part of the Nexus or on his own, Justin Gabriel was always known as a high flyer. This is also the case in the real world, and it almost cost the South African his life on multiple occasions. Gabriel, who now wrestles under the name PJ Black, is a genuine thrill seeker. This is reflected in his nickname, the DAREWOLF, which is either a great pun or one of the worst of all time, not quite sure. One of his passions is base jumping, which basically means jumping off of very high things and then opening a parachute at the last minute to avoid turning into a human pancake. What could possibly go wrong? After suffering 2 broken ankles during an accident in 2016, Gabriel returned to the sport for some reason and damn near killed himself. Whilst leaping off a building, the performer turned the wrong way and crashed into the structure. He managed to flip himself back around, breaking his ankle a second time in the process, and then also ripped off one of his fingers on a satellite dish. Maybe just stick to the 450 splashes from now on. Number 3. Magnum TA in a car crash. One of the great what-ifs of 80s wrestling pertains to a man with one of the greatest moustaches the sport has ever known. Magnum TA was a fast-rising star in the NWA, captivating audiences as a blue-eyed babyface. He famously went to war with Tully Blanchard in a bloody I Quit match at the 3rd ever Starrcade and was being primed for a run with the world title. Then, disaster struck. Whilst driving his car in the rain, Magnum crashed into a telephone pole not far from his home. The crash shattered several bones in the star's neck and very nearly killed him. It also ended his wrestling career. Magnum TA was only 27 years old when he was forced to retire, which is far too young. There is seriously a strong chance that he might be considered one of the best of all time today if his career had been allowed to fully play out. As it is, we simply salute a legendary mullet and moustache combination and rewatch him threatening to remove Tully's eye with a piece of table on repeat. Number 2. Brutus Beefcake, a parasailing accident. The Barber, Brother Bruti, Hulk Hogan's special man friend, call him what you will, Brutus Beefcake has had one hell of a career. His time in the squared circle, however, almost came to an end back in 1990 thanks to this very serious injury. Beaver was parasailing, which is the thing where you get dragged around behind a boat whilst you're wearing a parachute. While helping his friend prepare for his go, the driver of the boat set off too early and sent the other person's knees crashing into Brutus's face. He lost his nasal cavity, his jaw, and needed assistance when breathing. It took intensive facial reconstructive surgery to repair the damage, which left the star's career in severe jeopardy. However, However, despite having his entire face destroyed, Beefcake was back in a WWE ring just under 2 years later. It is a minor miracle that Ed Leslie was able to do anything again after this accident, let alone wrestle on and off for the next 2 decades. I mean, just imagine all the incredible Zodiac, Booty Man, and Disciple matches we would have missed out on if he had to hang them up. Something bear thinking about. Number 1, Randy Orton taking the bins out. Household chores might be annoying, but surely they're not dangerous, right? Well, they are if you're a certain apex predator. WrestleMania 32 was cursed in terms of stars sustaining injuries. Every single champion from the previous year's event went down hurt. Seth Rollins, John Cena, Daniel Bryan, Tyson Kidd, Cesaro, Nikki Bella, all of them were on the shelf. Randy Orton was another name missing from the lineup. Whilst Rollins had done his knee in wrestling and Bryan's accumulated injuries had caught up with him, the Viper's reason for not being there was much less exciting. Reportedly, Orton hurt his shoulder whilst taking the rubbish to the bins at his home in October 2015. I mean, what was he throwing away, a grand piano? This bizarre boo-boo took Orton out of his feud with the Wyatt family and kept him off our screens until the next summer, when he came back just in time to get his head caved in by Brock Lesnar's mighty elbows. He might have survived Cactus Jack in a hardcore brawl, The Undertaker in a casket match, and everything The Fiend threw at him, but the great Randy Orton was no match for the almighty garbage can.